Hello, everyone. This is Becca Victoria. I'm a clinical hypnotherapist, RTT practitioner, and therapist, and TT practitioner, therapist, and coach. Welcome to Embodied Shift. Jonna and I explore real change where subconscious healing meets higher guidance. Please subscribe and thank you for being with us today.
Hi everyone, I'm Jonna. My work is about remembering who you are and trusting your inner knowing. Our question is what your boundaries are actually protecting isn't what you think.
So when most people hear the word boundaries, they think about keeping other people out, right? Saying no, protecting your time and energy. And yes, that's part of it, right? But today, Joy and I, we want to go a lot deeper than that because what I've discovered working with my clients at the subconscious level is that boundaries aren't really about it's not really about other people at all. They're about the relationship you have with yourself. And that's deep, isn't it? and if that relationship is broken, no boundary script in the world is going to fix it. So here's the thing. Here's the thing about that no one in the boundary conversation is saying. You already know. You already know how to set boundary. We do this all the time, right? Telling my kids, no, you can't do that. Or telling our partners, I need my space, right? So we've seen it done. We know the words that doesn't work for me. I need my space. We know all these things, but why can't we do it, right? Because a boundary is not a technique. It's a declaration that you are worth protecting. And if your subconscious doesn't believe that, right? If somewhere deep down you are running a program that says your needs comes last, or that saying no makes you selfish, that love is something you have to earn, being available all the time, right? And again, there's no amount of boundaries setting advice will stick because the words will come out and then the guilt will swallow you basically whole. So I love this topic because it's often, we hear this a lot from our friends, family, or even in an office environment. We have to have that boundary, right? And really, what is it? Why is still so hard for people accepting it? And for me, what I've seen with my practice, and it's very, very common, really, when they don't feel enough about themselves. They cannot give that boundaries. They can't until they realize I am worth it. When they actually realize that it's okay to set those boundaries and they feel safe, right? So I'm gonna give some examples in a bit here, but from energy healing perspective, what have you seen so far from your clients, family, friends, in terms of putting that boundaries?
When boundaries are set to come from fear or set to come from a place of wanting to please or a place of your insecurities or a place of feeling unworthy, it's a very heavy feeling because you're gonna feel it in your body, you're gonna feel it in your energy, where when you're saying no, it feels like you're letting people down, that they're gonna feel like you're letting them down, you're telling them that you don't love them. They might not love you back anymore. They might be disappointed with you. They might be frustrated with you. So if you're coming from that space of, I can't have boundaries because it's not keeping me safe because I want to be loved. And if it's important for you to be loved, then, that's just programming. But if it's coming from an energy of, I need my boundaries because I want to feel so much love for people and I don't want to resent by not making choices of loving myself. So that's a healthier way of an energy. When you would say, I'm sorry, I can't go to the movies because I'm not feeling good, or because I want to focus on, because I want to read tonight. I want to do something with my soul. I want to, meditate or whatever the case may be. I want that time for myself. If I'm seeing that as, I want to do that so I can give so much more love when I see them the next time, because I know right now I'm not going to be present with them. So that changes the story, that changes the energy, that changes the scenario. Because boundaries are really healthy, not just for us, but also for others. It's allowing us to be true to ourselves so that we could be truly capable of loving others as well. Because we don't want to burn out, right? I'm a pleaser personality myself in the past. And when it comes to energy, it's amazing when I finally recognized and I was aware of my pattern and I've felt worthy. So now my boundaries are when I tell my family that, hey, I have to sleep, because I need to catch up with sleep, or I'm okay with it because it's coming from a place of, I know they're going to understand me. But before, because you can't fake energy, but before, if I'm already feeling guilty, then I could already tell that they're also being mad about me saying no. But everything is energy. Like even with dogs, like they sense everything. So whatever you're making them feel from an energy perspective. So if I'm not feeling guilty and just saying I can't, then they're not gonna feel that too. Maybe in the beginning because you're so used to them saying, yes, and then finally it's a no. Of course, that's like, oh my God, that's new, right? That's unfamiliar. But eventually they're gonna come to understand that it's okay. There's nothing wrong about, that making choices. So hopefully that helps.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And again, why, we ask ourselves, right? Why we cannot set that boundaries. And again, in my practice, I always go to the roots. Always, always. With boundaries, the root is almost always the same. There was a moment, usually very early, where our needs were treated as inconvenience, right? Or inconvenience rather. And when you heard from your parents that you were too much and your needs were dismissed, right? And you expressed how you felt and were told you're too sensitive, too demanding, and all this BS, really. But it happens a lot, unfortunately, right? And of course, for some parents, they didn't know better that those words gonna hurt their children. Those little, they think it's nothing. Those are just words, but words hurt a lot of people, especially in that develop when they're just developing that development stage where between 0 to 7 years old. It's so powerful. Those words were so so powerful for those kids, children that hear not very kind words to them, right? So if we are in this environment where keeping the peace was survival, we carry us in our adults in our adulthood, right? So our subconscious mind, which is always learning, always adapting, registered that message, that our needs are not as important as everyone else's, and that is huge, right? Not feeling worth. I would say, and you've mentioned this too, that feeling unworth is almost always why people feel that they cannot set boundaries. And and also it's almost like a chain reaction, isn't it? When you don't feel the confidence level is low, lack of self-esteem, on and on and on. But so now how do we actually set boundaries? And I think for what I've seen from my practice, we have to, and you've said this time and time, love yourself first. And no matter what people might think, when you say to other people, it's so powerful because you're to yourself, I am worth, and you're not so worried about what might other people think of. And again, this happened last night. I had a match, this our opponent, I would just say this, they were annoying. They're trying to get in my head, and for me to be able to have that space of, okay, I'm not going to, of course I know myself. I know myself. So you can do whatever you want. You can distract me or whatever else you're doing. It's not gonna work for me because I know, right? I know what I can. And I think what I'm trying to say here is just know yourself,
Mhm.
love yourself. And how do you love, right? If you had all this trauma during sick, right? And with all the help that you can find, either via Zoom in person, I would really encourage find that can help find your to love yourself no matter what, right? To accept yourself completely. And because we all deserve to live a life that we don't have to worry about, that freedom of not worrying about other people's or whatever else. Because if you know, and I can say this great confidence, I've been there. Right now, at this point of my, I don't really, I don't want to say it in this, but I mean, but in this video, I wouldn't, I don't care about much people would think about me because I know. I think that's what I'm trying.
With age too, like for myself, getting to a certain age, I think I wouldn't put it because I am in a work of energy. I do, because I believe when you're in alignment, it's better for manifestations. I've seen that for myself. I've seen that with my health. I've seen that with finances. I've seen that with everything in life. So I'm always coming from a space. So when as you're getting old, as you're getting to know your. I think when we're younger, it's when we really with our worth. And hopefully as we get older, we get better with how we feel about our. For me, asking questions is you want to feel good about setting your boundaries. So asking the question, why don't I have good boundaries? Why am I not protecting myself? And I also know when I'm not protecting myself and I continue to tell, please people and just have them do whatever they want me to. And I get so tired or overwhelmed from because maybe of traditions, because of how it's all, and you're really unhappy about this. Why do you keep? And then hopefully at that with that you could have an awareness on, and then experiment. Make it as start saying no out of just wanting to test how I feel about my boundaries because that first is key to more no's. You know what I'm saying? When you're wanting something, you keep asking, like marketing, and then there's always going to be a yes on it, right? At the end of it, maybe it's like 30, 40, 50 people, 100 people, and then you finally get a yes. And so you don't stop because you're with boundaries, start saying no and loving the world.
I love it.
Yeah, right? Rebecca, like,
Yeah.
you know, if someone's asking you something and your first intuition is no, because you just want to create this boundary, because your brain is going to start acknowledging that, your heart's going to feel okay with that energy of, and the next thing you know, you're just in a saying no to things that you don't want and more yeses on things that really matter.
I love that. What the boundary is actually protecting, right? So here is the reframe. I want you guys. A boundary is not a wall between you and another. And I mentioned this in the beginning. A boundary is a declaration of your relationship with your. It is you. I trust my own feelings enough to. I believe my needs are, and I'm worth protecting. And you are worth protecting, right? Again, worth. You are worthy. And also, I want to be honest about this also because I think people expect that once they do, boundaries will suddenly feel easy and natural, and eventually yes, but a boundary often feels uncomfortable, right? So, and I love that. I love the word no. By the way, it's powerful, and so it feels uncomfortable if right. The difference is instead of collapsing under the right, you can stay with it. You can feel the guilt and hold the boundary, not because you're self, but because you find at the subconscious. That's it. I think that's the word. You are worth it. You are worth protect. And that is the shift right there. That is what the work creates, not a person who never feels to we yeah, stop that. But a person who no longer needs to protect
Mhm.
himself.
Well said, Beck said. And for me, I'm just gonna boundaries with respect. I think is very important in relationships, in everything. That when you have respect for yourself, for people that you love, people you associate with, when you have respect, it's so important. When you're respecting yourself, you're respecting your. And when you're like Becca said, if you're betraying yourself, you're not respecting. So if you want to be respectful, then you're gonna find it to be okay for your to show up for yourself, because you're, as Becca, we always show up for other people. For it's about time that we start showing up, because we can show up more for more people, for more things. Because if we don't start showing up for ourselves, we won't have that energy to move forward, to move to live the lives that we have. We're not going to be an inspiration. We're not going to be, especially for younger generations, because they're learning.
Okay. So I just want to leave this for today's conversation. If you've spent your whole life putting everyone else, that was a survival. Okay. But you don't have to survive more, right? You get to live, and right, and it starts with action to protect the most important relationship you will, the one.
That's amazing. And what I'm going to remember who you are. When you remember that all the pain, all the energy are keeping you from feeling, they're all gonna hear, because you know that you have. And when you're in a self, everything that you do for everyone.
Oh, love that. Thank you all so much for being.
Thank you all so much. And please do subscribe. It will really help us a lot. We would really have that. And also, get the only way that Becca has your website in our link. And
Yes.
well, if you guys ever need, I know we always forget that, because we would love to help you guys do a better life. So if you ever need our services, Becca has her website there. I have my web as well. That's the only place for me. You can actually get your sessions there, schedule them there. That's the only way I will. That's the only way I will be doing coaching. Please don't get scammed. Um, ask for your services directly, and Becca as well. So if people are reaching out saying, "Hey, do you want to be coached by me?" Make sure that you're only going to our website to get our services. That is the only way. Please be safe out there. And thank you guys so much. We love you for being with us in our journey. And let's